Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the TheCaliEffect. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 underrated trap cards this format. Now, we're going to start off with probably one of the most ever so controversial cards called Vanity's Emptiness. Now, Vanity's Emptiness seen a lot of play last format, and its play is in a huge decline in this format. So let's get down to the fact. Neither player can special summon monsters. Destroy this card when a card is sent from the deck or field to your graveyard. Now, there can be a couple of contributions to Vanity's Emptiness decline. Back row is more prevalent, first, and second, Mystical Space Typhoon. While the argument of Mystical Space Typhoon, if I activate Vanity's Emptiness, you can just Mystical Space Typhoon and then it goes away, that point is kind of moot, mainly because that can go for any card, such as Fiendish Chain, preemptively hitting a bottomless, D-Prisons, Mirror Force. Any trap card is susceptible to back row destruction. Vanity's Emptiness is just another one of those trap cards. The good thing that it has going to it is that it's a royal oppression. Why do people forget about royal oppression? The royal oppression theory is to special summon your monsters, then set your special summon negating card, and then when your opponent tries to counter swarm, you can completely stop their summons. A really good deck that this card fits in is Fire Fist, because they can control the tempo. They have multitudes of continuous spells and trap cards, so they don't go away immediately. And how they control that tempo is just by activating their Fire Fist Bear, their Fire Fist Gorilla, Rooster's Effect, Dragon's Effect, or they can't activate Dragon's Effect, so Rooster's Effect, Gorilla or Bear's Effect. They can make Vanity's Emptiness disappear and then go into their place again. Vanity's Emptiness is still one of those great cards that prevents the opponent from special summoning, and I think it's highly underrated this format. Next, we're going to be talking about Needle Sealing. Don't know why. Dark Hole is at 1, Torrential is at 1 for a reason. When there are 4 more monsters on the field, destroy all face-up monsters. That's simple. I've always told people on my YouTube channel, when a card has that much text, it's typically a really good card. Needle Sealing is a very interesting card, especially in Ghost Trick decks, mainly because all other monsters are face down, and Needle Sealing only destroys face-up monsters. So, if your opponent has at least 2 monsters on the field, and you have 2 monsters on the field, prepare to Dark Hole your opponent. Because basically they're going to lose their 2 monsters. You're going to be able to keep your face down monsters. Now, that's not for any given situation. Maybe there's some monsters that you just need destroyed. The only thing that has to be the requirement is 4 monsters on the field. That can be any variation. 4 of your opponents, 1 of yours, 3 of your opponents, 3 of yours, 1 of your opponents. If that monster is that problematic, Needle Sealing could be the answer. It's really good against decks that like to swarm. Needle Sealing can hit them hard. And then basically you get, if you're running Torrential, 5 white field wipes, which would be your Dark Hole, 3 Needle Sealing if you chose it. I'd probably only, if it was a sideboard art, I'd probably only choose 2. But if it could be a Dark Hole, 3 Needle Sealing, and Torrential. Now, if you do take away that 3rd Needle Sealing that you're probably running because you're crazy, you still have 4 Dark Hole cards. That's just amazing. Next, we're going to be talking about Trap Tricks Trap Hole Nightmare. A very interesting card. When a monster your opponent controls that will special summon this turn, activate its effect, negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. Now, Trap Tricks Trap Hole Nightmare is an interesting card because unlike most Trap Hole cards that only can activate when the monster is summoned and such and all this other stuff, Trap Tricks Trap Hole can activate anytime as long as it fulfills the requirements. Your opponent controls a monster that will special summon. That includes monsters that were stolen from you and try to activate that a turn. You get to negate and destroy that effect. That's amazing. It's something like a pseudo effect veiler. It's just a really good card for negating a monster's effects, and it destroys the card. Unlike effect veiler, you can activate it any given time as long as you fulfill the regular game mechanic requirements. You can't set Trap Tricks Trap Hole Nightmare and then try to activate it on your turn. That's obvious. But it's just a really, really good card, extremely underrated, and I feel that this card should see a lot more play. Next, another card that has been falling out of play is Imperial Iron Wall. Cards cannot be banished, and anytime, like I said, you see a card with that little text, it's typically a really good effect. The reason why they were seeing a lot more play is because Dragon Rulers. Well, Dragon Rulers are quote-unquote dead. Not true. Heretic Rulers are actually topping, I believe, 9% of all events. That's a pretty big percentage when the people at your locals see that, oh, well, Heretic Rulers are still a good deck. Imperial Iron Wall does stop that Heretic Seal of the Ashes and those dragons. Not to mention that, Bujins are still a deck, and Imperial Iron Wall is pretty jerkish to stop the turtles, the hares, all of that graveyard stuff, everything, basically everything except for Crane. Imperial Iron Wall is still one of those great cards, amazing sideboard options. I don't think we need to sideboard or mainboard our sideboard cards anymore because Dragon Rollers aren't the deck of the format. So I really do think Imperial Iron Wall is just one of those underlooked card, really good, solid sideboards. Now last would be Big Burn. Probably one of the most, actually probably the most underrated trap card of all time. You can only activate this card when your opponent activates a card that targets a monster in the graveyard. Remove from play all monsters in both players' graveyard. Now, I don't know if you guys like to disrupt your opponent's graveyard, but if your opponent is pretty graveyard reliant, this card kind of, yeah, gets rid of that problem. Especially if your opponent is playing, I don't know, 3-Axis Fire Fists, Heretics, any of that stuff. The only thing they have to do is target a monster in the graveyard. They don't have to special summon it, they just have to target it. Big Burn does the rest for you, essentially probably locking the game up for you on its own right. Definitely an amazing sideboard card. If you don't need any of your graveyard monsters, or if it's that key to locking up the game, it's just really good. I urge you guys to get Big Burn while it's cheap though, because it will go up when it does get good. Thank you guys for watching another segment of The Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.